Angela, let's dive right in. Just so for those of you who are not aware, Angela is a television and film producer, an author, a TV commentator, and former social media professor. Man, recognized as a media and arts trailblazer by the US Congress, Los Angeles Mayor, and Los Angeles City Council. Angela has over 15 years of experience in the entertainment industry. She not only was a screenwriter for a Christmas movie on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and has a published book, A 12-Step Strategy for Success, Create Your Yes When You Keep Hearing No. Man, but she's also worked for MGM, Warner Bros. Television, and the Grammys. Can you believe that? I'm so stoked and honored to have you here, Angela. In 2005, oh, thank you. It looks like you founded the Breaking Into Hollywood, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that helps creative and business professionals pursue their careers. Thank you, thank you, thank you again, just for being here, your extensive resume and providing your support here for the individuals on the call. They're looking to transform their dreams into reality. For those of you who don't know, I met Angela at a workshop myself. And she was talking about that very thing, how to create your yes when you keep hearing no. And I had to reach out. I was like, Angela, I would love for you to be my guest speaker and to help me create my yes in terms of this workshop series. And without hesitation, she said yes. So without further ado, Angela, welcome. I would love for you to just share your story, tell people who you are, and whatever's on your heart.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. I always love doing events in the beginning of the year because I think, January is such an impactful month for how you set the tone for the rest of your year. So I'm excited to be here and I'm glad you guys are here. And, because it means that, you're ready for you're ready to create your own yes in 2023. I am a writer, a producer. I'm a mom of 3 young kids. I've been married for 20 years. And so I have a lot going on in my personal life. I have a lot going on in my professional life. In addition to my producing, so I've done show running. In addition to my producing, right now I'm primarily focused on creating shows and selling them. I also work as the director of engagement for a science media organization called Environmental Health Sciences. And so, I'm doing a lot of different things all at the same time, which has been really a blessing that I've been able to sustain so many different types of roles in the entertainment industry because it really gave me just a different perspective. I worked as an agent, which gave me a total different perspective of the industry, which led me into casting, which then led me into producing, which then led me into, becoming a showrunner. And, my passion is really writing.
I don't want to give much away from the book, but I want to ask you some questions specifically. So first off, how did you know you wanted to write a book? And it sounded like you said you had 6 published before this one. And what was the process to get it created? Did you hire a publicist and everything? And what did that look like?
On one end, I always like to say that parking, that validation is for parking. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum, we actually need validation in the world, in order to move in certain spaces. It just is the way the world is. But it's important not to get caught up in the validation to the point where it stunts your growth. And so that's what I want to prove to myself by publishing the books, that I'm not going to get caught up in who tells me I can't do. I know what I can do and I will do it. But then there comes to be a place where you have to pay bills. You have to, move in the world in a certain way, just the reality of it. And so I really wanted to have a book. And so let me see. I actually was my literary agent at the time. I have a new one now, but my literary agent, he was my first literary book agent, and he helped me land that book deal, Jim. And I asked him, well, what kind of book should I be writing? And they said that I should be writing a business book. That's the kind of book that they would be, wanting me to write. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so that just kind of sat with me, in my brain for some time, just like a business book. At that time, I had already written my own self-published book, Breaking Into Hollywood, which was my first memoir / self-help book. So I'd already sort of done that. I already felt like I put out like my advice into the world in some way. So I really didn't think of a business book, per se, even though I am an entrepreneur, I've started numerous businesses. It's just never crossed my mind. And so as some time went on, a friend of mine asked me to, they were looking for someone to give a TEDx, and I had agreed. Long story short there, but basically I agreed in like 2 weeks, and I put together this talk, and my mom was in town, and I was trying to think like, what should I call this? And she was like, well, what is it? What are you ultimately trying to say? And I said, well, I'm ultimately trying to say that, when you keep hearing no, create your own yes. And she's like, that's it. That's the title.
That's it.
I was like, Mom, that seems really long for a title. She's like, no, that is the title. And I was like, okay. So I went with it. And then after the TEDx, I sent that TEDx to my agent and he was like, this is the book. And I was like, really? This is the book? I was like, oh, well, maybe this is the business book. And then put together a proposal and we actually got that book deal very quickly. So, when something is meant for you, sometimes when things are meant for you, it takes a long time too, but that did happen relatively fast compared to, other things in my life.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you saying when it's meant for you, right? I think that comes up a lot when people are like, oh, you get so many no's. And I don't understand why people say when it's meant for you, it's meant for you. Can you elaborate more on what you mean by that so that the people here can get a better understanding?
Sure. I think that, in life that when you set your heart on trying to do something and when you want to achieve something, for me, I'm a Christian. So for me, it's about being aligned with God's will for my life. And so, whether you believe in God or not, I think it's important that you yourself have some kind of understanding. You have some alignment. You have some place of purpose and spirituality in which you wake up and walk and move in the world. And so I think that, sometimes we get so caught up in things that if something happens right away, we assume that it is meant to be. And so I think that I like to be mindful on how I say things because there's so many times in life where something can happen right away. It doesn't mean it's really for you, But I felt like that was meant for me because of sort of the trajectory and how things came together. And in and of itself, it was like I had been rejected, over and over. And I just felt like I am an expert in rejection. That's essentially like what I felt like the talk was going to be about was rejection. And so, yeah.
How did you pivot from your engineering degree from University of Michigan? Ultimately, you said you're a screenwriter now. You're doing a lot of things as a showrunner. Did you always want to be a screenwriter? Where did that passion come from? And do you believe you're living in your purpose today? And how did you take that leap of faith? Were you afraid to leave that engineering degree to do something different?
Yeah, I've never really been afraid to leap into anything, which is a good and bad thing. But I think that the pivot that I took would be, I'm trying to think if there's a specific entryway in. I mean, I think when I got my engineering degree, I never worked as an engineer. So my first job from working as an engineer or from graduating with my degree was writing. So I wrote for an engineering magazine. And so I think that was my entry point into the entertainment, which was, writing. And then throughout my engineering time getting my degree, I also took internships in journalism. So I had an internship at the Tennessee Tribune, and one of my bosses there has remained one of my, dear mentors, throughout my career. She was the publisher of the Tennessee Tribune. And so from there, I just always was writing. And, I think that was really sort of my entryway. But that's how I guess how I made the pivot was basically just sticking with writing. If you can write, any kind of thing, you can always write anything. If you're a writer, you're a writer. You should be able to write a song. I've written everything known to man, songs, this, that. You can write. If you can write anything. Interesting.
So it does sound like you're truly living in your purpose, even though you had that engineering degree. It was like screenwriting was on your heart. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say screenwriting, writing. I think what it is because I don't know that I see myself as someone that just would want to, if someone said like, what is your dream job? Would it just be like to write screenplays all day? It wouldn't be, right? So I think for me, I just love variety. And so I think, for me, the sort of the part of my purpose is, yes, I'm walking in that, but the part of my purpose that really sort of, I guess is a thread throughout is connecting with people. And I think what you write ultimately is, creating some kind of emotion in someone, whether it's educating them about a topic or, getting them further, more research about something, or whether it's actually, inspiring them, or like with a Christmas movie, it's just, I love Christmas movies. So it's just like fun to get the family together. So you're a part of that too. So it just kind of depends. But I think at the end of the day, that's one side. And then the other part is, I've gotten to, I think early on in my career, in 2005, I had gotten up to a place where I pretty much felt like I had hit rock bottom in my career in terms of, where I was and what I was trying to do. And I got to a place where I was just like, why are things not happening? Why are things not happening for me? And my mother had said, are you, giving back to the entertainment industry? Are you giving back? And I was just like, well, I give back like in the community. And she was just like, well, no, but do you give back in the exact area that you want to be successful in, like in entertainment, not just because I was giving back in my church and I was doing things. And I was like, no, I'm not really giving back to the entertainment industry. She was like, well, think about that. And that's how I started breaking into Hollywood. And I said, let me do something to give back. And that really became very, very linked to my purpose, and have a sincere, like, gut, soul, passion for just helping people achieve their dreams, whether it's in entertainment or not, whether it's personal or professional, just really helping people get aligned for what they want out of life and how they can get it.
And I truly feel that just from your spirit as well, and your ability to say yes to my question, to be here to help inspire individuals on this call. That's part of my purpose as well, to just get people to pursue their dreams and do what they love. So thank you again for being here. Is there one devastating no that you can share with us that like broke your heart and you're just like, oh my goodness, why did I receive that no? And how did you come back from that? How do you come back from those setbacks?
The one time which I think I felt probably most just like, I don't know, shattered was just before I started my nonprofit. So I think just before I started breaking in Hollywood was just where I felt like I had done everything you were supposed to do. You know, like I had done the networking. I met with people. I created mentors, authentic mentors. You know, I was just doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, you know, becoming educated, educating myself, meeting people. At the time, I can't remember when my kids came into play because I'm bad with dates, but like I had done everything, you know, that you were supposed to do in that time, you know? And so, so I think that like the fact that like I hadn't reached the level of success in which I wanted, you know, was very frustrating for me. And I think how I bounced back was realizing that I needed to give more of myself, and give more of myself to others, and take a moment and sort of pause. Similar to what we're doing here today, there becomes a moment in your life where it's so important to make sure that you're giving back in where you're at. You don't have to wait till you know, get to wherever you're trying to go, whether it be financially or it be professionally. You can give back now, at no matter where you are. I mean, you can be an intern at a company and in college and figure out a way to give back where you're at now. And I think that that's important if you continue to do that along the way, because ultimately you're planting seeds, and seeds is what grows things. So ultimately, you know, I think that's how you bounce back from anything. If you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling sad, or you're feeling just frustrated, or, you know, whatever it is, I think make sure you're planting seeds, not just in your career, but in someone else's. And I think through that, just as the way the world works, like ultimately, you know, you will flourish in some aspect of your life.
If there are individuals who are experiencing depression, sadness, they just feel hopelessness in their lives, or they don't know what to do, even though they have a dream and they want to do something in their lives that fulfills their purpose, what can they do to get out of that depths of despair? Or could you talk to us more about the bulletproofing your mind that you mentioned in the book, and like the ICE method?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that we have to, one, remember that all people go through almost all things, you know, like everyone doesn't have the same kind of things that happen to them in life, but everyone goes through states of sadness, through states of depression. I've worked with a lot of celebrities. I've worked with a lot of, you know, wealthy individuals and people. So it's not a money thing, right? It's certainly not a class thing. It's not a race thing. It's just an everybody thing. It doesn't matter who you are. If you have air and you're breathing, you're going to go through some states, because it's just how we're created, right? To have this emotional thing, because it's almost like how we're created so that we can learn how to move in the world, and how we can learn how to have connections with others. So I think that understanding first that you are not alone, and that everyone around you, even in the most, you know, no matter what it may look like on the outside. Now, not to be fooled though, there are some people who, you know, I think are a little better off than others in some capacity, whether it be their spirits or just a little bit more. They've been through enough to kind of get to that settled place that when the chaos comes, they learn how to deal with it a little bit better, but it still exists. And so I think that's where you should be trying to focus on, is just getting to a place where you're never going to stop the chaos. You're never going to stop those eeks of depression. You're never going to stop being human, because basically you'd be like not alive. And so we don't want that. I'd rather you be alive and be sad. That's better, even if it doesn't feel like it's better. Trust me, it is better. You know, I believe that, you know, if you have literally woken up in the morning, you know, you've been given the courage to live that day. So once you wake up, just know that like you need to be here, and that's that. But I think moving through, really difficult spaces in life is remembering that your dream and what you're trying to achieve is not just about you, it's connected to someone else's dream. So sometimes if you just don't think about it in terms of yourself, it's like, okay, you got to keep going, not for just you or your family, but you want to keep going for the next person and their family, and understanding that someone else's dream is tied to your dream.
My favorite moment of what you said there is like, your dream is connected to someone else's dream. So keep going, like, don't give up. And so I hope that a lot of people here take that away from your message. Is it possible to create your yes while working a full-time job that pays the bills versus focusing on a dream that has not yet paid the bills yet? And then what could someone do today, this weekend, next weekend, in a couple of months to take the next steps towards their dream?
Yep. Yes, it's absolutely possible to create your yes while you're working a full-time job. I mean, I think that, be patient with yourself. I think it's important to set deadlines and timelines. But I think the most important thing that you can do is focus on those like daily, those daily things. If you don't have a lot of time, whether it be because you're working or you have children or whatever it is, if you don't have a lot of time, you really have those daily points or those daily aspects in your life are really important. And in my book, there's a chapter where I talk about Inchstones versus Milestones. And milestones are, get an agent, be in a TV show, host a show, be on a red carpet, whatever it is, right? These like very specific things, get financing for your film, get an agent, things that you have absolutely no control over. And so in order to create your own yes, you must absolutely find a way to focus on your Inchstones, not your milestones. So, that is really, really important to focus on your Inchstones, not your milestones, because that's day to day what you can control. And so I think if you remember, anything, it's making sure that the things that you set up for yourself are things that you can control. And so when you think about something like, let's say, getting an agent, top of mind, you might be like, okay, I want to get an agent. That's my milestone goal before the end of the year or this month or whatever. And instead of saying that to yourself, it's like, you already know that's what you want to do. Okay, so you have to actually say, I want to send out 50 email queries. That's what I want to do. I want to send out 50 email queries. You have to start making that like the forefront goal as opposed to the other thing, because the other thing there comes with nothing. It's just like, sounds great. It's a dream. It's a goal, but it's not a step that you can take to work toward. So I think you have to shift how you think about it on a daily basis, or when you communicate to people, when someone says to you, like, what are you working on? Or what is it you're trying to do or whatever, instead of saying like, oh, I would love to give that end goal, say, oh, I'm really working on, taking some new headshots because I'm trying to blah, 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 like explain the Inchstone steps in which you're working on. Just train your brain to focus on the Inchstone.
Is there something that you believe has helped push you forward into creating your yes? So is there certain verbiage that you use in conversation with individuals, email templates, phone calls, messages that you believe help turn a no into a yes?
That is a great question. And I think that, shorter is better. Whenever you're submitting emails, I think, being short and not writing too much, not sharing too much information about you. I always like to give this example because it's so real and so true. And it really gave me, I think, is a thing that fundamentally helped me to understand how easy it is to, get to people. And this was when Tyler Perry's very first movie came out. I think it was Diary of a Mad Black Woman. I think that was his first movie. So this was some time ago. And his movie came out, and in the Hollywood Reporter, he had mentioned, or the executive, the head of, what was he? I guess he was like the vice president of production or development, had mentioned that they were looking for more movies like that movie. And I was like, that's interesting. I have a movie that I felt was kind of like it, not really, but from an industry perspective, it would be seen as kind of like it, right? Because it was a Black movie, and it was, an ensemble cast and so forth. So anyway, so I said, let me send him an email. So I went to Google and just found what I thought his email would be. You can pretty much find anyone's email. You just kind of look at the press releases that they send out. So if you want to find someone at Warner Brothers, that basically everybody at Warner Brothers is the first name dot last name at WarnerBros.com. That's pretty much everyone's email. There are some exceptions if people have, second names or they're married or things like that. But for the most part. So anyway, I was able to find his email at Lionsgate, and I sent him an email, and it was very short. And it was just like, hi, I saw your article in the Hollywood Reporter saying you're looking for more stories. or more movies just like this. I have one. Would you like to read it? It was simple as that. I didn't tell him where I went to school. I didn't give him any background information. I didn't say anything. That was literally all I said. I wish I had that email, but anyway, and so I sent it off, and maybe a couple hours later, a short time later, like he had responded, he had CC'd his entire team, and fast forward, they ended up inviting me. They told me to send the script. I sent the script. They read it. They said it wasn't what they were looking for, but then they invited me to a meeting. And so they invited me to meet with him, or to meet with, no, one of the other, not to meet with him, to meet with one of the other development execs. And we just talked about, my movie and just writing. And we talked about what it takes to get movies greenlit at Lionsgate, which was really enlightening to understand the process of like greenlighting and what that looks like at a major film company. And so at that moment was so life altering because I realized that, no matter how high up someone is, they will respond to your email, even if they don't know you. So as much as we hear people say, oh, there people don't respond to emails, maybe they don't respond to all emails. Maybe they will respond to your email for whatever the reason. Maybe I just happened to catch him at the right time for whatever the reason. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. I never got a chance to ask. I just moved forward in it. And so I think that that's something that's really stuck with me.
Extremely powerful. And it's a great segue into what we'll be doing today as well, to ensure that everyone writes something down now, like 1 to 2 steps you think you can take to move that yes forward. Can you talk about negative self-talk and tools to counter or support it?
The way that I've learned to really counter the self-talk is just giving myself the patience or the whatever the word is to do it, like allowing myself to do it. Like, it's okay to do it. I don't think it's a problem to have the negative self-talk, because I think that's a part of life. I just think it's a real part of life. I'm not in everyone's head, so I don't know how everyone else is, but I assume that negative self-talk is a pretty common thing. And so I think we should just allow ourselves to do it, give ourselves permission to do it. But after we do it, have a place for where you're going to go after it. So it's kind of like, okay, I allow myself, a minute to go in this rabbit hole of just negativity. Like, yep. Peter, I can't believe him. He had some nerve saying that and telling me to contact him. Like, what is he to do? It's okay. That's how I feel. It's okay to exert how you feel. But then just don't let that then depict, where you go from there. So after that, you want to make sure that you move forward. So I think the step would be, for me, it's kind of like I give myself so much of the negative self-talk. I don't think it's a problem having it. And maybe there is a problem, but it's what's natural for me, and it comes. So I think that when that comes, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to give myself so much of it. And then after that, it's like, Angela, no, that's it. You're done. And then at that point, you just, eventually move on from it. And I think the other thing too is, most of the time we're wrong. Most of the time, self-talk is so wrong, because, depending on how spiritual, you'll know that just exists, a part where there's just like a negative energy that exists in the world. And so, you have to continue to push forward against that. And so I think that, I think that there's just a balance, that it's okay to do it, but that, at some point just say okay, this is enough. And for you, it may be a day. For me, it's just a couple of minutes. It's just moving on and saying, okay, this is a couple of minutes. And then the other thing is, from a strategy point of view, I used to do this. I don't do it now, but I used to do this where I would, I'll tell you what I do now. But what I used to do is I would put down no's, or things that were negative, things that were going on that I wanted to happen, things I was getting no's about, and figure out okay, how can I change these, or how can I get what I want by saying, okay, I got a no for this. I got a no for this. I got a no for this. How did I, why is this happening? And then I would try to just come up with a strategy, come up with a plan for that, which was definitely helpful. So that might be something useful you can do, is when you're getting no's or negative talk, writing it down. Don't just let it be talk in your head. Actually physically write it down so you can see it. And when you can see the negative talk, he doesn't like me, or whatever it is. And then you can see that's just wrong. That doesn't even make sense. How do you even know that? Whatever, right? You can just defeat your own self when you see it written. And then the other thing is, what I do now is really focusing on my yeses. So instead of focusing on the no, so I focus on, so for you, it would look like focusing on all the things that you feel are yeses in your life. It could be personal, it could be things with your health, it could be things with your family, your individual children, each child by child. It could be whatever it is. things that are yes for you, things that happen, things that you're happy about. They don't have to be grand. They can be small, but whatever it is, and then focus on how that happened. How did that yes happen? Like what led to that?
Before we go, Angela, I wanted you to just talk more, just maybe your top takeaway from the book that you want people to get, what you want them to understand, to fill in their hearts as they're reading it from the giveaway or they purchase it online.
Yes. I would say that, the premise of how I even, came up with the book in the first place was trying to think about something that we all go through in life. When I was asked to give the talk, the subject was on breaking barriers. And so they'd asked me to speak on within that framework of breaking barriers. And I thought about, what barriers have I broken? I've certainly broken barriers as a woman. I've broken barriers as a Black woman, as a mom of 3. I've been married for 20 years. There's barriers there. I'm friends to many, mentors to many. There's tons of barriers that I experience, but not all barriers that I've experienced have others experienced. So some of the barriers that I've experienced, you have not, and vice versa. But one barrier that we have all experienced and we will continue to experience is rejection. And rejection is something that we are all going to experience in life. And so I think that if there is something I really want you to, really take away, is to remember that it's a part of life. And then it's important that you continue to learn how to redirect the no's when you get them in life. And that, I always say that, it's often said that, if you keep hearing no over and over again, there's that idea that eventually your yes will come. And sometimes your yes will literally never, ever come until you create it. So just remember that.
That was a conversation with Angela Marie Hutchinson. She was my very first guest for the virtual workshop series, How to Transform Dreams into Reality. What a powerful discussion, so many inspirational gems. And I'm hoping you take those inspirational gems to heart and you focus on that dream. What do you want to do? What do you want to turn into a reality for your life? I believe that it's important to do things in 3s, and that's meditate, manifest, and take action. What is your dream? Write it down. Say it out loud. But most importantly, believe it. Without belief and faith that your dream can become a reality, you've already given up hope. Don't give up hope. Breathe life into your dream. Make it a reality. All things are possible. You can connect with me on Instagram at ariana.rscott, Facebook, Ariana R. Scott, or go to my website at arianascott.org. I'd love to keep in touch. Please be on the lookout for the next workshop, and keep in mind, all things are possible. Stay inspired.